Jake Morrison walked into the Great Hall of the Galactic Council for the last time. His black suit was pressed and clean. His face showed no emotion. Behind him walked Lisa Carter, his aide, carrying a silver briefcase that would change everything. The hall was massive. 47 different alien species sat in curved rows that rose up like a giant bowl. Some had blue skin, others had fur or scales. A few looked almost human, but their eyes were wrong. Too big or too small. Jake had spent 5 years in this room. Today would be his final day. Chancellor Vexithera sat at the center of the room. She was tall and thin with purple skin that seemed to glow. Her forearms moved as she spoke. Jake had never liked her. She always talked to humans like they were children who didn't understand the grown-up world. Ambassador Morrison, Vexithera said. Her voice echoed in the big room. We are ready to hear your proposal about the mining rights in the Kepler system. Jake stopped walking. He looked up at all the alien faces staring down at him. Some looked bored. Others seemed annoyed that a human was taking up their time. None looked friendly. I'm not here to talk about mining rights, Jake said. His voice was calm and clear. I'm here to deliver a message from Earth. The room became quiet. Lisa stepped forward and opened the briefcase. She pulled out a thick document with red ribbons tied around it. The paper was real, not digital. That meant this was very important. What is this? Asked Zektal, the bug-like representative from the farming worlds. His voice buzzed when he talked. Jake took the document from Lisa. He held it up so everyone could see. This is the formal end of all agreements between humanity and the Galactic Council. The silence was complete now. Even the air recycling systems seemed to stop humming. We quit, Jake said simply. Chaos erupted. Aliens started talking all at once in dozens of different languages. Some stood up. Others hit their desks with hands, claws, or tentacles. Vexithera raised all 4 of her arms for silence. This is impossible, she said. No species has ever left the Council. The agreements cannot be broken. Jake smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Actually, they can. Lisa, please read Section 12 of the original treaty. Lisa's voice was steady as she read from a small device. Any member species may withdraw from all Council agreements with 6 months' notice and full settlement of outstanding obligations. We gave you 6 months' notice, Jake said. Today is the last day. All our obligations have been settled. We owe you nothing. You owe us nothing. Admiral Kex Mirren, a gray-skinned warrior with metal implants in his skull, stood up. You cannot do this. Humanity needs the Council. You are too young, too dangerous to be alone in space. Dangerous, Jake repeated. He looked around the room. Yes, we've heard that word a lot. Too dangerous to help with the refugee crisis on Altair 4. Too dangerous to share our medical research. Too dangerous to expand into empty star systems that we found first. Jake's voice got louder, but not too dangerous to do the jobs that might kill you. Not too dangerous to fight in your wars. Not too dangerous to work in mines that would poison most of your people. Dr. Zara Ness, a blue-skinned scientist with large black eyes, spoke up. Her voice was soft but worried. Ambassador, please think about this. We can discuss your concerns. Perhaps some changes to policy. We tried discussing, Jake said. For 5 years we tried. Every proposal we made was voted down. Every request was denied. Every offer to help was called too risky. He pulled out a small data pad and read from it. Human request to establish medical stations in the Outer Rim. Denied. Too aggressive. Human offer to share fusion technology. Denied. Too dangerous. Human. Proposal to create joint exploration teams. Denied. Humans too unpredictable. Jake put the pad away. But here's my favorite. When the Shadari attacked the Centauri trade routes, who did you call? When the plague hit New Vulcan, who found the cure? When the solar storms threatened the communication network, whose engineers fixed it? The room was quiet again. Everyone knew the answer. Humans, Jake said. Every time there was real danger, you called the humans. We came running. We fixed your problems. We saved your people. And then you went back to calling us too dangerous to be trusted. Vexithera's forearms moved nervously. The Council has always appreciated human contributions, but procedures must be followed. Safety protocols exist for good reasons. Safety protocols, Jake laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. The same safety protocols that got 3,000 colonists killed on Kepler 442 because you wouldn't let us use our mining equipment? The same protocols that let the void entities destroy an entire star system because our warning was too alarmist? Several aliens looked uncomfortable now. The Kepler disaster was still fresh in everyone's memory. Human engineers had warned that the old mining systems would fail. The Council had insisted on using approved technology instead. When the systems collapsed, 3,000 people died in the cave-ins. We have made mistakes, admitted Counselor Meltar, a peaceful tree-like being who rarely spoke. But leaving is not the answer. We can learn, we can change. Jake shook his head. You've had 200 years to learn. Humans have been part of this council for 50 years. In that time, we've contributed more to galactic peace and prosperity than most species do in 500 years. And what do we get? A pat on the head and a reminder to stay in our place. Lisa stepped forward again. This time she pulled out a different document. These are the withdrawal papers. All human colonies have been notified. All human businesses in council space have 6 standard days to complete their affairs and leave. All human military advisors and technical specialists are being recalled immediately. The weight of this hit the council like a physical blow. Humans ran the most dangerous mining operations. Human doctors worked in the plague zones. Human engineers maintained the most complex systems. Human tacticians planned the defense strategies. You can't take everyone, Vexthara said. And for the first time she sounded worried instead of superior. The mining operations on 12 worlds will shut down. The medical stations in the Outer Rim have no replacement doctors. The defense grid needs human technicians. Not our problem anymore, Jake said simply. You wanted to treat us like children who couldn't be trusted with grown-up decisions. Fine. Children don't run mining operations or plan military strategies. Find some adults to do those jobs. He turned to leave, but Vexthara called out. Ambassador, Morrison, please, at least tell us why now. What has changed? Jake stopped. He looked back at the assembled aliens. Many of them looked scared now. Good. They should be scared. What changed was the vote 3 days ago, he said. The vote to restrict human expansion into the Ross, Wolf, and Tau Ceti systems. Systems that we found. Systems that we surveyed. Systems where we've already started building colonies. Those systems are too close to void entity territory, Admiral Kexmiran protested. It's for your own safety. Our safety, Jake repeated. Not the Council's decision to make anymore. He walked toward the door. Lisa followed, the empty briefcase in her hand. At the entrance, Jake turned back one last time. For 50 years, we asked to be treated as equals. You treated us as useful pets. Today, we stop asking permission to be human. The great doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the silence that followed, 47 species began to realize what they had lost. Outside, Captain Ryan Brooks waited by the shuttle. How did it go? Jake looked back at the massive council building one last time. It's done. Signal the fleet. We're going home. As the human ships prepared to leave council space forever, none of the aliens inside the Great Hall could imagine how much their galaxy was about to change. Danny Walsh wiped the sweat from his face as he watched the last human transport ship lift off from Kepler 442b. The mining world's red sky was filled with dust and smoke from the loading operations. 50,000 human workers and their families were leaving. They had only 4 days to pack up their entire lives. Foreman Walsh, called Supervisor Kexiron, his voice shaking. The tall, gray alien had never sounded worried before. Today he sounded terrified. Surely some of your people will stay. We can offer better contracts, higher pay. Danny shook his head. Orders are orders. Every human leaves council space. No exceptions. Kexiron's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. But who will run the deep mines? The radiation levels will kill any of our people in less than an hour. Not my problem anymore, Danny said. He picked up his bag and walked toward the shuttle. Behind him, alien workers stood around looking confused. They had always been told that humans were good for dangerous work, but not much else. Now they were learning what dangerous work really meant. The deep mines on Kepler 442b produced rare metals that powered half the Council's technology. The radiation down there was so strong that only humans could work there for more than a few minutes. Human bodies were tough. Human medicine was better. Human equipment was designed for the worst conditions in the galaxy. The mines will shut down, Kexiron called after Danny. The entire planet's economy will collapse. Danny stopped at the shuttle door. You should have thought of that before you voted to treat us like children. As the shuttle lifted off, Danny looked down at the mining complex. Already, some of the alien workers were trying to enter the deep sections. Their protective suits started flashing warning lights before they even reached the first level. The suits weren't designed for that much radiation. Only human suits could handle it. By the end of the week, the mines would be closed. By the end of the month, the planet would be broke. 3 star systems away on the trade station Centauri Prime, Captain Amy Rodriguez was having similar conversations. The station's central market was normally busy with traders from 100 worlds. Today it was chaos. Captain Rodriguez, please reconsider, begged Administrator Zethara. The blue-skinned official's tentacles writhed with worry. Your cargo, ships carry 60% of all trade through this sector. Amy signed another document on her data pad. Had to fill out the paperwork. We're taking our ships and going home. Around them, alien merchants were literally begging human traders not to leave. The truth was simple. Humans were the best traders in the galaxy. They took risks that other species wouldn't take. They flew routes that other pilots couldn't handle. They carried cargo that other species thought was too dangerous. But what about the medical supplies for the outer colonies? Asked Dr. Yelmara, an insect-like alien with compound eyes. The plague on Raxus 7. Find another shipping company, Amy said. She didn't sound sorry. Maybe ask the Thraxians. I'm sure they'd love to fly through the asteroid field around Raxus. Dr. Yelmara's antennae drooped. Everyone knew the Thraxians wouldn't take that job. The asteroid field was too dangerous. Only human pilots were crazy enough to fly through it. But human pilots weren't really crazy. They were just better at flying ships than anyone else in the galaxy. Amy walked through the market one last time. Alien traders were already fighting over the few non-human cargo ships available. Prices were going up fast. Some goods wouldn't be available at all. Captain, called out Marigoth, a wealthy Kelrani merchant, I'll pay triple rates for your services. Not for sale, Amy replied. Earth says come home. We come home. As she reached her ship, Amy's communication system beeped. Messages were coming in from all over Council space. Mining operations shutting down, trade routes closing, medical emergencies with no one to help. Humans had been busy in the galaxy, much busier than the Council had realized. On Nexus Station, the Council's capital, Dr. Elena Vasquez was packing up her laboratory. She had worked here for 8 years. Her research on alien diseases had saved millions of lives. Today, she was throwing it all in boxes. Dr. Vasquez, you cannot leave now, pleaded her research partner, Dr. Zilnara. The Kelrani scientist's purple skin was pale with worry. We are so close to a breakthrough on the Centauri fever. Elena looked up from her packing. We've been close to a breakthrough for 2 years. Maybe you'll have better luck without my reckless human methods. Dr. Zilnara's long ears drooped. I never said your methods were reckless. No, but the Council did, Elena replied. Every time I suggested a new approach, every time I wanted to try something different, they called it too dangerous, too risky, too human. She picked up a data pad and showed it to her alien colleague. Remember when I wanted to test the new treatment on volunteer subjects? The Council said it was too aggressive. That was 6 months ago. How many people have died from Centauri fever since then? Dr. Zilnara couldn't answer. They both knew the number was high. Your safe, approved methods don't work, Elena continued. My dangerous human methods do, but the Council prefers safe failure to risky success. Elena sealed the last box and called for a transport. As she waited, she looked around the lab. Some of the most important medical research in the galaxy had happened here. Research that the Council had barely tolerated and often tried to stop. What will happen to the research? Dr. Zilnara asked quietly. You'll figure it out, Elena said. Or you won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. Her transport arrived, piloted by another human. The pilot, Joe Martinez, grinned at her. Ready to go home, Doc? More than ready, Elena replied. As they flew away from Nexus Station, Elena's communication system lit up with messages. Hospitals across Council space were begging her to stay. Medical schools wanted her to teach. Research facilities were offering enormous salaries, all too late. On the military side of Nexus Station, General Paul Jackson was meeting with his alien counterparts one last time. The conference room was full of worried military officers from dozens of species. General Jackson, said Admiral Kexmiran, the same alien who had called humans too dangerous just weeks ago. The Shadari are moving ships toward the border. We need human tactical advice. Paul closed his briefcase and stood up. You said human tactics were too unpredictable, too aggressive. Handle it yourself. But your people understand warfare in ways we do not, admitted General Vorthak, a bear-like alien with scars across his face. Your strategies have won every major battle for the past 20 years. Funny how we went from too dangerous to absolutely necessary so quickly, Paul said. What changed? The alien officers looked at each other nervously. They all knew what had changed. Without human military advisors, they were helpless. Human tactical thinking was different. Humans saw possibilities that other species missed. Humans took risks that led to victory. The Shadari will not expect traditional council tactics, Admiral Kexmiran said desperately. They have been preparing for human-style warfare. Then you're lucky you won't be using human-style warfare, Paul replied. Good luck with your traditional tactics. He walked out of the room, leaving behind the most experienced military command in Council history. As he reached his shuttle, Paul's aide, Major Rick Barnes, was waiting with the final reports. Sir, the evacuation is complete, Rick said. All human military personnel have been withdrawn from Council space. Paul looked back at the massive military complex. Human advisors had planned every major Council operation for decades. Human engineers had designed half the weapons systems. Human pilots had trained most of the Council's best fighter squadrons. What do you think will happen to them? Rick asked. Paul climbed into the shuttle. They'll learn, or they'll lose. Either way, they made their choice when they decided we were too dangerous to trust. As human ships continued to leave Council space, the full scope of the disaster became clear. Mining operations shut down across 12 worlds. Trade routes that had operated for centuries went empty. Medical facilities closed their doors. Military bases scrambled to find replacements for human personnel. On Centauri Prime, Administrator Zet Hara stared at the empty docking bays where human cargo ships used to land. The station's economy had collapsed in less than a week. On Kepler 442b, Supervisor Kex Iron watched radiation monitors flash red warnings as alien workers tried to enter the deep mines. 3 were already in the hospital. The mines would stay closed. On Nexus Station, Chancellor Vexithara received report after report of disasters. Systems failing, operations shutting down, emergencies with no one to handle them. For the first time in 50 years, the Galactic Council was learning what the galaxy looked like without humans. They were discovering that the dangerous children they had dismissed were actually the backbone of galactic civilization. The realization was terrifying. In the Great Hall of the Council, emergency sessions were called. Alien representatives, who had voted to restrict human expansion, were now begging for human help. Species that had called humans too aggressive were now admitting they needed human aggression to survive. But the human ships were already gone, disappearing into the deep space beyond Council territory. And for the first time in galactic history, the Council was truly alone. President Maria Santos stood in the Situation Room deep under Washington, D.C. The walls were covered with screens showing human colonies across the galaxy. Every single colony was reporting the same thing: successful withdrawal from Council space. No incidents, no problems. The operation had gone perfectly. "Madam President," said General Paul Jackson, who had just returned from Nexus Station, "all military personnel have been extracted. The Council is in complete panic." Maria nodded. She had expected this. What the Council didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this day for over 2 years. While alien diplomats thought they were keeping humans in line, human leaders had been making very different plans. "General, show me the Philadelphia project," Maria said. A new screen lit up. It showed a massive space station hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The station was huge, bigger than anything the Council had ever built. Construction ships moved around it like busy insects. "The Philadelphia station is 90% complete," General Jackson reported. "It can build 50 ships at once. We've been working on it for 3 years." Maria smiled. The Council thought humans were too aggressive to be trusted with advanced technology. They had no idea that humans had been building their own advanced technology in secret. "What about the colonies?" she asked. "New Denver is fully operational," answered Governor Chris Martinez through the communication system. His voice came from a human colony that the Council thought was just a small farming world. "We've got 40 shipyards running at full capacity. The new destroyers will be ready in 6 months." Maria walked to another screen. This one showed a star map with human colonies marked in blue. There were far more blue dots than the Council knew about. While aliens had been limiting human expansion, humans had been secretly colonizing dozens of systems. "Governor Martinez, tell me about the mining operations," Maria said. "Better than expected, Madam President. The asteroid mines in the Ross system are producing 3 times more rare metals than the Council worlds ever did, and we don't have to worry about radiation limits or safety protocols." Chief Engineer Katie Sullivan stepped forward. She was a small woman with graying hair, but she was the smartest person in the room. "Madam President, we need to tell you about the new engines." Maria raised an eyebrow. "New engines?" Katie activated another screen. It showed technical drawings that looked nothing like Council technology. "We call them quantum drives. They're twice as fast as anything the Council has. We reverse-engineered them from artifacts we found in the Void Sector." "The Void Sector?" General Jackson asked. "That's restricted space. The Council forbade all exploration there." "Which is exactly why we explored it," Katie said with a grin. "While the Council was afraid to go near the place, our survey teams were mapping every system. We found ruins, Madam President, ancient cities, and technology that makes Council science look like stone tools." Maria stared at the technical drawings. The implications were enormous. "How long have you known about this?" 2 years, Katie replied. "We tried to share the information with the Council. Remember the Xenoarchaeology Committee meeting?" Maria did remember. Human scientists had requested permission to study ancient alien ruins. The Council had denied the request, saying it was too dangerous. They had ordered humans to stay away from all ancient sites. "So we studied them in secret," Katie continued. "The quantum drives are just the beginning. We've learned how to make materials stronger than anything in Council space. We've developed weapons that can cut through any known armor. We've even figured out how to communicate instantly across the galaxy without using the Council's relay network." "Show me the communication system," Maria ordered. Dr. Alex Turner, a young scientist with messy hair and thick glasses, stepped forward nervously. "It's called quantum entanglement communication, Madam President. We can talk to any human colony instantly, no matter how far away." He pressed a button on his device. Suddenly, voices filled the room from human colonies across the galaxy. "New Boston colony reporting all systems operational. Tau Ceti shipyards ready for full production. Wolf 359 research station has completed the new shield generators." Maria was amazed. The Council used a network of relay stations to communicate across space. Messages took hours or days to travel between systems. This human system was instant. "The Council has no idea we can do this," Dr. Turner said proudly. "They think we're dependent on their communication network." General Jackson was studying the star map. "Madam President, if we have this many colonies and this much technology, why did we ever need the Council?" "We didn't," Maria replied. But we hoped we could work together. We thought they would eventually treat us as equals. She walked to the center of the room and looked at all the screens showing human achievements, secret colonies, hidden shipyards, advanced technology. It was impressive, but also sad. Humans had been forced to hide their progress because the Council feared human advancement. There's something else, said Dr. Nicole Grant, the head of xenobiology research. She looked worried. Our exploration of the void sector found more than just ruins and technology. The room became quiet. Everyone looked at Dr. Grant. We found evidence of what destroyed the ancient civilizations, she continued. The Council calls them void entities, but they're not just random monsters. They're organized, intelligent, and they're coming this way. A new screen showed long-range sensor data. Strange ships moved through space in perfect formations. They left dead systems behind them. The Council has known about this threat for 20 years, Dr. Grant said. That's why they didn't want us expanding into certain systems. They were using us as a buffer. Human colonies were supposed to slow down the void entities while the Council prepared their defenses. Maria felt angry. The Council hadn't just dismissed human capabilities. They had been willing to sacrifice human lives to buy themselves time. How long do we have? She asked. 6 months, maybe less, Dr. Grant replied. The void entities will reach the outer Council worlds first. Then they'll move toward human space. General Jackson stepped forward. Madam President, our new weapons might be able to stop them. The quantum drives will let us move faster than they can. And our colonies are better defended than anything the Council has. Maria nodded. The irony was perfect. The Council had tried to keep humans weak and dependent. Instead, they had forced humans to become stronger and more advanced than anyone in the galaxy. General, what's the status of Captain Brooks? She asked. The UES Constitution is patrolling the border between human and Council space, Jackson replied. Captain Brooks reports that Council ships are trying to enter human territory. They claim they need to discuss the void entity threat. Tell Captain Brooks to maintain the border, Maria ordered. No Council ships enter human space without permission. She looked around the room at her advisors. These people had spent years preparing for this moment. They had built a secret civilization while pretending to be junior partners in someone else's galaxy. The Council thought we were dangerous children, Maria said. They were right about the dangerous part. They were wrong about the children part. Dr. Turner's communication device beeped. Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the Council. Emergency frequency. They're requesting immediate assistance. Maria smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Tell them we'll consider their request. But first, they need to formally recognize human independence and sovereignty over all systems we currently occupy. What if they refuse? General Jackson asked. Maria looked at the screens showing human fleets, human colonies, and human technology that surpassed anything the Council had ever imagined. Then they can face the void entities alone, she said. After all, we're just dangerous children. What could we possibly do to help? Outside, in the space around Earth, the largest human fleet in history was gathering. Ships built in secret shipyards, weapons powered by technology the Council had never seen, crews trained in tactics that no alien mind could predict. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could really do when they stopped asking for permission. Administrator Zektal stood in the middle of the failing crops on Harmony the 7th and wanted to scream. The golden wheat that had fed 3 star systems was turning black and dying. The atmospheric processors that kept the air breathable were breaking down one by one. Without human engineers to fix them, the entire planet would be dead in 6 months. Sir, called his assistant, a nervous young Kelrani named Pipara. The last atmospheric processor in Sector 7 just shut down. That's 12 failures this week. Zektal's forearms moved frantically as he tried to read all the failure reports at once. What about the backup systems? Those failed last month, Pipara replied. The human supervisor, Joe Mitchell, warned us this would happen. He said the alien-built systems couldn't handle the workload. Zektal remembered Joe Mitchell, a quiet human engineer who had worked on Harmony 7th for 8 years. The Council had insisted on replacing human equipment with approved alien technology. Joe had warned them that the alien systems were too weak. The council had told Joe to stop being so negative. Now Joe was gone. The approved systems were failing, and 3 billion people across multiple worlds were going to starve. "Sir, incoming transmission from Chancellor Vexus Thara," Pip Ara announced. The hologram of the Chancellor appeared, but she looked terrible. Her usually perfect purple skin was pale and dull. Her 4 arms shook as she spoke. "Administrator Zektal, what is your status?" "Complete failure, Chancellor," Zektal replied honestly. "The crops are dying, the atmospheric processors are breaking down. We need human engineers immediately." "That's impossible," Vexthara said, but her voice was weak. "Humans have cut all contact. They refuse to answer our communications," Zektal looked out at the dying fields. "Then we're all going to die." 3 star systems away, Admiral Kexamiran was facing his own nightmare. The Shadari hegemony had launched surprise attacks on Council border worlds. 3 colonies had already fallen. The Council fleet was being destroyed piece by piece. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, "the Shadari have broken through our defense line at Rigel. They're moving toward the industrial worlds." Kexamiran stared at the tactical display. Red enemy ships moved across the screen like a plague. His own blue ships were retreating or already destroyed. The battle plans that had worked for decades were useless against the Shadari's new tactics. "Sir, perhaps we should use Formation Delta 7, suggested his tactical officer, a young Thraxian who had recently graduated from the military academy. "Formation Delta 7 was designed by humans," Kexamiran replied bitterly. "I don't know how to use it." The truth was painful. For 20 years, human officers had planned every major council military operation. Humans thought differently about warfare. They saw opportunities where other species saw only problems. They took risks that led to victory instead of playing it safe and losing slowly. "Admiral, the Shadari are using human-style tactics against us," his intelligence officer reported. "They're doing exactly what humans would do in their position." Kexamiran closed his eyes. The irony was perfect. The Shadari had studied human military thinking and learned from it. Meanwhile, the Council had dismissed human tactics as too unpredictable. Now they were being destroyed by their own ignorance. "Sir, incoming priority message from Chancellor Vexithara." The Chancellor's hologram appeared on the bridge. She looked even worse than she had an hour ago. "Admiral, I need you to contact the humans immediately," she said desperately. "Offer them anything they want. Money, territory, full council membership. Just get them to help us." "Chancellor, they've cut all diplomatic contact," Kexamiran replied. "Human Ambassador Morrison refuses to answer our calls." "Then send a ship to human space," Vexithara ordered. "Beg if you have to. Without human tactical support, we're going to lose this war." Kexamiran looked at his tactical display again. The red enemy ships were getting closer to the core council. Worlds. "I'll try, Chancellor. But I don't think they're going to listen." On Nexus Station, Chancellor Vexithara was trying to hold together a government that was falling apart. Reports of disasters came in every hour. Mining worlds shut down. Trade routes abandoned, military defeats, agricultural failures. "Chancellor," said her aide Morthek, "we have an urgent report from the Outer Rim. The observation post at Kepler 1649 has gone silent." Vexithara felt her heart sink. Kepler 1649 was on the edge of void entity territory. If the observation post was gone, it meant the entities were moving again. "Send a scout ship to investigate," she ordered. "Ma'am, the scout ship returned an hour ago," Morthek said quietly. "There's nothing left. The entire system is empty. No planets, no stars. Nothing but empty space." Vexithara's 4 arms trembled. The void entities had consumed another star. System. They were moving faster than anyone had predicted. "How long until they reach council space?" she asked. 3 weeks, maybe less," Morthek replied. "The military estimates we have 2 weeks to prepare our defenses." Vexithara laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "What defenses? Half our fleet is being destroyed by the Shadari. The other half is falling apart without human maintenance crews." She walked to the great window of her office and looked out at the stars. For 200 years, The Council had maintained peace and order in this part of the galaxy. Now, it was all falling apart, because they had been too proud to treat humans as equals. "Chancellor," Morthek said softly, "perhaps it's time to consider offering humans everything they originally asked for." "They asked for equal treatment," Vexthera replied. "We told them they were too dangerous." "Yes, ma'am." "They asked for the right to expand into empty systems," she continued. "We told them it was too risky." "Yes, ma'am." "They offered to share their technology," Vexthera said. "We told them it was too aggressive." She turned away from the window. "Now we're discovering that we needed their danger, their risk-taking, and their aggression. We needed everything about them that we tried to suppress." "Should I try to contact Ambassador Morrison again?" Morthek asked. "Yes," Vexthera said. "Tell him we're ready to discuss new terms. Tell him we'll give humans everything they want." "And if he refuses to talk?" Vexthera looked at the reports covering her desk. "Dying, worlds, lost battles, approaching extinction. Then we'll face the void entities with whatever we have left." But they both knew what they had left wasn't going to be enough. In the deep space between Council and human territory, Captain Ryan Brooks sat on the bridge of the UES Constitution. His ship was patrolling the border, making sure no Council vessels entered human space without permission. "Captain," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving multiple distress calls from Council space. Colony worlds requesting evacuation assistance, military bases asking for tactical support." "Standard response," Brooks ordered. "Refer all requests to human diplomatic channels." "Sir, some of these are emergency medical situations," his officer said. "The plague on Raxus 7 is spreading. They're begging for human doctors." Brooks felt a moment of sympathy. Then he remembered the Council vote that had restricted human expansion and called humans too dangerous to be trusted. "Not our problem," he said firmly. "They made their choice." "Captain, incoming transmission from a Council military vessel," announced his tactical officer. "It's Admiral Kexmiran himself." Brooks almost smiled. The same admiral who had called human tactics too unpredictable was now coming to ask for help. "Put him through," Brooks ordered. Admiral Kexmiran appeared on the main screen. He looked tired and defeated. "Captain Brooks, I'm requesting permission to enter human space. I need to speak with your government about the current crisis." "Permission." "Denied," Brooks replied simply. "Captain, please," Kexmiran said desperately. "The Shadari are destroying our worlds. The void entities are approaching our space. We need human assistance." "You need human assistance," Brooks repeated. "The same humans you called too dangerous to trust." Kexmiran's gray skin turned darker with embarrassment. "We were wrong. We admit it. Please, just let me speak to your leaders." Brooks considered this. On one hand, people were dying in Council space. On the other hand, the Council had spent 50 years treating humans like dangerous children. "I'll pass your request to Earth," Brooks said finally. "But don't hold your breath. Humans have learned to solve their own problems. Maybe it's time the Council learned to solve theirs." The transmission ended. Brooks looked out at the stars and wondered how long the proud Galactic Council could survive without the dangerous children they had rejected. Captain Ryan Brooks was drinking coffee on the bridge of the UES Constitution when every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sam Parker, was staring at her screens with wide eyes. "Captain, massive energy readings coming from the void sector," Sam reported. "It's huge. Bigger than anything we've ever seen." Brooks set down his coffee and walked to the main display. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of dark ships were pouring out of empty space. They moved in perfect formation, like a plague of metal insects. Behind them, stars were going dark. "How many ships?" Brooks asked. "Over 3,000, sir," Sam replied. "And more are coming through. They're heading straight for Council space." Brooks activated the long-range communication system. "This is Captain Brooks to Earth Command. The void entities have launched a full-scale invasion. Repeat, this is not a drill." President Maria Santos's voice came through the speakers immediately. Captain, what's your status? The entities are moving fast, Madam President. They'll reach the first Council worlds in 6 hours. The Council fleets are too busy fighting the Shadari to mount any defense. There was silence for a moment. Then President Santos spoke again. Captain, you are authorized to monitor the situation. Do not engage unless human territory is threatened. Understood, Madam President, Brooks replied. But as he watched the dark ships advance, he wondered if there would be a galaxy left to save. On Nexus Station, Chancellor Vexithera received the news with the last bit of hope she had. Her aide, Morthek, delivered the report with shaking hands. Chancellor, the void entities have broken through the outer perimeter. They'll be here in 4 hours. Vexithera looked around her office one last time. In a few hours, this station, this government, and probably her entire species would be extinct. Any word from the humans? She asked desperately. No response to any of our communications, Morthek replied. Captain Brooks is monitoring the situation but has orders not to interfere. Vexithera closed her eyes. The humans were watching them die. And why shouldn't they? The Council had treated them like dangerous children for 50 years. Now the children were letting the adults face their problems alone. Chancellor, Morthek said suddenly. New ships on the sensors. They're moving fast toward the entity fleet. Vexithera opened her eyes. Council reinforcements? No, ma'am, Morthek said, his voice full of wonder. They're human ships, and they're not running away. Captain Brooks watched his tactical display as the human fleet dropped out of quantum space directly. Between the void entities and the first Council world, 50 human warships formed a battle line facing 3,000 enemy vessels. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Tracy Wilson aboard the UES Liberty, Sam reported. Admiral Wilson appeared on the main screen. She was a tough woman, with gray hair and scars on her face from years of fighting. Captain Brooks prepared to engage the enemy. Ma'am, our orders are to monitor only, Brooks reminded her. Orders have changed, Wilson replied. President Santos has authorized full engagement. We're going to show these entities what humans do to bullies. Brooks grinned. Understood, Admiral. All ships, battle stations. The human fleet moved forward to meet the void entity armada. The alien ships were larger and there were more of them, but the human ships were faster and better armed. Sir, the entities are opening fire, Sam reported. Dark energy beams lanced out from the alien ships. Most missed the fast-moving human vessels. Those that hit were absorbed by quantum shields that the Council had never seen before. Return fire, Brooks ordered. Human ships unleashed weapons powered by technology from the ancient ruins. White-hot, energy beams cut through entity ships like they were made of paper. Quantum torpedoes tore holes in space itself. The void entities had consumed dozens of civilizations over thousands of years. They had never faced anything like human warfare. Direct hit on the entity command ship, Sam reported excitedly. It's breaking apart. Brooks watched as the massive enemy vessel exploded in a ball of dark fire. Around it, other entity ships began to retreat. Sir, the entities are falling back, Sam said in amazement. They're actually running away. Brooks couldn't believe it. The void entities that had terrified the galaxy for centuries were fleeing from human ships. Admiral Wilson to all ships, came the voice over the communication system. Pursue and destroy. Don't let any of them escape. The human fleet chased the retreating entities back toward the void sector. Within 2 hours, the invasion was over. The entities that survived disappeared into empty space, apparently deciding that this part of the galaxy was too dangerous to attack. On Nexus Station, Chancellor Vexithera and her staff watched the battle through long-range sensors. They saw human ships destroy an enemy that the Council had feared for decades. Get me a communication channel to the human fleet, Vexithera ordered. Ma'am, they're not accepting calls from Council ships, Morthek replied. Then get me Ambassador Morrison, she said desperately. I don't care what it takes. An hour later, Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main screen in the Council chambers. Behind him stood Admiral Wilson, General Jackson, and other human officials. Jake looked exactly the same as he had 6 months ago when he delivered humanity's withdrawal notice. Chancellor Vexthara, Jake said politely. I understand you wanted to speak with us. Vexthara stood up, and for the first time in her life, she bowed to another species. Ambassador Morrison, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for our treatment of humanity. We were wrong. You saved us. Jake nodded. We didn't save you for the Council. We saved you because people were dying. What are your terms? Vexthara asked because she knew there would be terms. Jake looked at the assembled Council members. Many of the same aliens who had voted to restrict human expansion were now begging for human protection. Our terms are simple, Jake said. Humanity rejoins galactic civilization as a full equal partner. All restrictions on human expansion are removed. Human colonies already established are recognized as sovereign territory. Human technology and tactics will be shared freely and used without Council approval. Admiral Kexmaran, who had called human tactics too unpredictable, stood up. Those terms are completely acceptable. We're not finished, Jake continued. The Council will establish a new military structure, with human and alien officers working as equals. Council votes will no longer be based on age of species or traditional hierarchy. Every species gets one vote, including humanity. Chancellor, Vexthara nodded quickly. Agreed. Anything else? Jake smiled, and this time it was a genuinely happy smile. Yes, the Council will stop calling us dangerous children. We prefer to be called dangerous adults. President Santos appeared on another screen from Earth. Chancellor Vexthara, humanity is willing to return to the galactic community, but this time we return as partners, not subjects. Agreed, Vexthara said immediately. Complete partnership. Then welcome to the new Galactic Alliance, President Santos said. Equal species working together. 5 years later, Jake Morrison stood in the same great hall where he had delivered humanity's withdrawal notice. But everything was different now. Human and alien representatives sat together in mixed groups. The old hierarchy based on fear and tradition was gone. Governor Chris Martinez had been elected to lead the joint colony of Unity Station, where humans and aliens worked side by side on projects that neither could accomplish alone. Captain Brooks commanded a mixed fleet of human and alien ships that patrolled the borders against any future threats. The void entities had not returned. Intelligence suggested they had found easier targets in other parts of the galaxy. Word had spread that this sector was protected by humans, and that was enough to keep most threats away. Ambassador Morrison, said Dr. Zilnera, Elena's old research partner, the medical team has requested approval for the new treatment plan. Jake looked at the proposal. It combined human medical techniques with alien technology. The kind of collaboration that would have been impossible under the old Council. System approved, he said. Good luck with the research. As Jake walked through the halls of the station, he saw human children playing with alien children. He saw human engineers working with alien scientists. He saw the future that had always been possible if both sides had been willing to treat each other as equals. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Dangerous children grow up to become dangerous adults, and sometimes, dangerous adults are exactly what you need to survive. Outside the station, human and alien ships patrolled together, ready to face whatever threats the universe might send their way. They were no longer a council of species afraid of each other's differences. They were an alliance of equals, united by the understanding that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is underestimate someone else. The galaxy was safer, stronger, and better because humanity had finally stopped asking permission to be human.